And Dean Rawlsky, we get into what was a legendary win for SMU in Moody Coliseum over Louisville earlier this week. And let's go back to that. You and Palmer Ruth had the post-game podcast, the instant reaction to SMU's 95-85 win over Louisville Tuesday night after the game. For those of you who missed it, check it out. But this game, when you look back at it, it was just a really big, I think, confidence boosting win for SMU when you get the type of performance down the stretch to pull away from a team that is squarely at the top in terms of the rankings, being, a very firm top 25 team. I just felt like in terms of the maturation of this team, they needed this win to really push them over that top as far as confidence down the stretch.
Oh, no doubt. And especially with some of the close losses they've had recently, it felt like the only way to get back to where they were maybe in the early January stage after coming off that UNC win was to pick up another big time win, a quad 1A win, if you're into that, which SMU did on Tuesday night. And it should give them confidence now heading into BC at home, a team who is struggling, to say the least, one of the worst teams in the ACC. But they shot the ball extremely well. Again, defense wasn't exactly where you want it to be, but that's what you're going to get with this team. But when the defense didn't show up, they lit it up on the scoreboard right from the very beginning. And to your point, Billy, about needing it, this feels like now they're back to where maybe they were a little bit earlier in the season before some of those tough losses. Can they take that next step now, win this game against BC, and then the tough 2-game trip out on the West Coast as of right now are 2 quad 1 opportunities for the Mustangs.
And I would say, 1, 2, and 4 in your last 6, very, very different than 3 and 3. So you get that kind of confidence boost off of that too, where you're not starting to see this, I don't want to say spiral, because even a loss to Louisville, even if that was, played out down the stretch, kind of similar to how that Syracuse game ended up where SMU came out on just a 1-point loss, you're not sitting there looking at it like too differently, whether they came out with a win, came out with a loss. You're looking at it from the standpoint of they pulled away. They made that statement, and to get that 10-point margin, obviously big for the net. SMU moved up to 33rd in the net the last time I looked at it. Again, they made a big move up in bracketology as well. They get Boston College at 3 p.m. on Saturday in Moody Coliseum before heading out to that West Coast trip. And when you look ahead at these next 3 games, this is now a team that, one, I think is always going to be a team that we sit there and say, okay, all right, they have their moments, but now they really should see what their key execution, when they're locked in with their passing. That's something Andy Enfield brought up a lot, just as far as that, the passing being just a step quicker than it was at Syracuse, being able to take advantage of some of the shot opportunities that they had because of their crisp passing. That's just one example, one piece to the game, but they can see that type of reward when it's there for them as they execute it on the floor.
Yeah, no doubt. And like you said in Coach Enfield's press conference, he said the team wasn't worried about who's taking the shots. Now, Jaron Pierre and Boopie Miller had phenomenal games against Louisville on Tuesday, both dropping over 20 points. But it didn't matter. You had guys like Sam Walters come off the bench and hit a couple of big-time threes in the first half, and Corey Washington, who had a great first half as well with 12 points, then made a couple of clutch threes himself in the second half. So this team is at its best when they're not worried about, okay, who do we want the ball in this possession, ball's hands in this possession, right? When it's in those tight games, SMU actually doesn't want to slow the game down and prioritize each possession. They want to move fast, and Louisville certainly went with them in that regard, and for a lot of the game stuck with them. But as you said, SMU pulled away, and the funny part is SMU's 2 biggest wins this year, you could say, were against North Carolina and Louisville, and those are 2 of SMU's biggest wins by margin as well in the ACC. And the last thing I'd want to say too is you said the difference between 3 and 3 and 2 and 4 in that 6-game stretch. Not only that, but now in conference play, you go 7 and 6 instead of falling and having that losing record that the Mustangs had to battle back from after the tough start that they had. So it just, again, all these little mental things, the intangibles you can't really put a value on, but it seems like now that they're at a nice spot to take that next step and win against BC and go out and make some things happen on the West Coast. We'll see.
when you get a win like that over Louisville, and especially coming off of the Syracuse loss, which I'm sure some people may be like, I think a small amount of people probably change their plans based on that outcome. But you get that kind of signature win for the second time this year in Moody Coliseum, and that can really start to grease the wheels a little bit as far as the fan base showing up for like a Boston College Saturday 3 p.m. That's a pretty good time slot. No real excuses. Kids get up from a nap even, and you can take them. So there's some good things happening in that regard, that they got that win over the top. They'll face Boston College, who's really struggling for the most part this year, and is a team that is in disarray. But when you look at them going out to the West Coast for that Cal and Stanford swing next week, I mean, shoot, what is it, 9 p.m. Dallas time tip-off Wednesday night? We'll be actually enjoying some Socorro tequila and some of that at Los Charros on Hillcrest. Make sure you meet us over there at 7 o'clock. We're going to have kind of a meet and greet, happy hour situation going on. And we're really excited to partner with Socorro and Los Charros on that. But the main event of that meet and greet kind of pregame watch parties setup is our friends at Sportsmo. And the Sportsmo app is actually bringing college basketball fans the ability to impact their team's rosters directly. You can make your micro donations, you can make your pledges, and then that money actually goes right to the student athletes fund so that they will be able to benefit from it. So it's a big deal that you download the Sportsmo app today and see how you can load up your wallet so easily and challenge your friends and challenge them head to head if they're a supporter of a different school. And the Sportsmo app will take care of supporting your favorite college basketball team in that respect as well. So big deal to have our friends with Sportsmo supporting that, as we'll have a little watch party fun Wednesday night.
College basketball hits different with Sportsmo. You tap, they score. You pledge, they drop a three. At this point, you're not watching a game, you're in it. Download Sportsmo. Power the play.
That's right. Power the play with our friends at Sportsmo. And, I think when we look at this guard duo and trio really of SMU with Boopie Miller and Jaron Pierre Jr. and BJ Edwards, they've really stepped up to the plate. And, having their stat line between Boopie and Jaron in particular hit a triple-double status in that Louisville win. That's what you pay for. That's why you recruited him back. In Boopie's case, that's why you went out and got him and Jaron Pierre Jr. And you see the pure talent level of Jaron, like where when he's on the floor, most games he's probably a 1 or 2 as far as the best athlete, the most explosive player and athletic player on the floor, in my opinion, at least. I mean, Michael Brown was unbelievable for Louisville and what he's been able to do despite all the turnovers that he had. But Jaron Pierre just gives you just such a different juice for SMU, and it's really paid off in a big way for them. And I think you keep developing his confidence and keep working with him on it, because it has been I would say it's fair to say a work in progress. Andy Enfield's wanting him to buy in on the defensive end a little bit more, and we're seeing when that all comes together for him, it really pays off, and that's where he can see I think, just reward for working hard on the defensive end. Andy Enfield's had him sat down at times, but BJ Edwards, he's bought in on the defensive end. We know what he does, and kind of a good, almost glue guy for that backcourt. But this whole backcourt has just really stepped up for SMU.
Yeah, and it's made SMU super fun to watch as a neutral when they're on as well. I mean, Jaron Pierre seems to have taken that next step. I think he's got 20-plus points in 5 of his last 7, or right around there. So he's, to your point, much more confident than he was maybe early on in ACC play. You can see that in the post-game press conferences as well when he's next to Boopie Miller. He's just having fun 24/7, and it seems like. And that's because he's playing well on the court, and he had a monster block against Louisville on Tuesday. So again, there are moments where he's locked in defensively and moments where he could probably be a little bit more focused. But the backcourt as a whole, when you've got Boopie Miller and when you've got Jaron Pierre, and like you said, BJ Edwards just kind of fills in where is needed. Sometimes that does mean, he needs to drop 20 points, and he does do that from time to time. But it's exciting to watch these Louisville in North Carolina, these big wins probably don't happen last year, but they happen this year because of just the true talent this team has. Again, I don't even want to say effort, but the overall defensive performances have been up and down. But last year, they didn't necessarily have the offensive prowess or firepower to make up for it in certain games, in some of those tight games. They do this year. It's no secret. So it has been super fun to watch. They're getting more and more recognition. John Rothstein's tweeting out maybe the most underrated backcourt in the country. Some people think it might be one of the best backcourts in the ACC. So they're starting to get some love. They can't let that get to them. They got to keep performing at this level, but they're turning some heads, no doubt.
And just to close on that, listening to a couple national podcasts, everybody talks about SMU as a team that you don't really want to face in the NCAA tournament because they can make shots at such a high level. And when they're on in such a way that you put up 95 points on, a Louisville team that's really, really good, despite not being, incredible defensively. And, the matchup in Moody Coliseum kind of played out a little bit more like I thought it would the first time around. SMU just didn't share the ball well. We know that. We know the turnovers and all of those things, but front court wise, SMU was able to, make an impact. And then that balanced out with the incredible ability to make shots and make plays from the backcourt. So just a really fun win, really, really great atmosphere in Moody Coliseum Tuesday night. And